asteroids, 9 of them going by the Earth in this 48-hour period. Earthquakes by the hundreds and hundreds of them, all up and down the California coast, from San Francisco all the way to San Diego, especially San Diego. It is shaking like crazy over there. The cracks in the ground in Mexico, and now they're saying they've got big cracks between Tucson and Phoenix. We got a lot to talk about, Mike, and of course wars, rumors of wars, everything going on. So Mike, can you address the fireball situation and really help us understand what's going on in Southern California again?
Well, concerning those objects in space, you think people are paying attention now? It's becoming more and more obvious to a lot of people. It's becoming alarming to a lot of people.
You said it would, didn't you?
Yeah, because they can't, they can't hide the fact that our entire reality is beginning to alter and change, and we're going to have to begin to operate in very different conditions. And so expect increases until we get to the point where we experience meteor storms on a weekly basis. It's going to begin. It begins this way, but when the smaller fragmentation starts impacting the surface of the Earth, well, then that's going to be very damaging. In fact, that's going to be so damaging that preparations have already been underway this year to avoid that. And to mitigate some of those circumstances. So, I can tell everybody that there are some serious folks who are preparing for some of these, what outsiders would say, nonsensical conversations. They're preparing for it. They're pouring money into it, and they know, if you watch what they're doing carefully, they're preparing for something. They are, in just about every aspect, every category of our existence, there's a lot of money being poured into the preparation of, to protect certain individuals. But, I just pray that those who are Christians actually begin to wake up and move around a little bit and start to take notice, not so they can run to another place, but so that they won't have heart attacks when these things actually do happen. Perhaps because, have you noticed, situations are starting to take Christians, it's starting to overwhelm them. I'm beginning to see that more and more.
People are very concerned. Christians are, because a lot of Christians thought by now the rapture would have happened. They didn't think they would be here during plagues like COVID, wildfires burning out of control massively like California, fireballs starting to break loose across the sky, wars, rumors of wars. Really seriously, most people thought we would have been gone a long time ago, because that's what they were taught for about 100 years. And it's bad because it was really bad teaching. It was not really biblical. If the guys preaching back in about 100 years ago and started that, if they would have just stuck to the Bible, then people would be saying, well, this is what the Bible said, we got to prepare. So we got to undo a little bit of that. Tell us more, Mike, about the earthquake in San Diego and what's going on there. Is this? When you bring up a 45-degree angle in San Diego. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, because and of course that was spawned from that dream I had, of course, but I've been paying attention ever since, and it's something that more and more every single day there are events that are unfolding, and I'll say it again, in Mexico. Mexico was one of the key points that kick-started. That was one of the lead points that I saw that led up to this earthquake, and sure enough, the science is backing it up. We have swells happening in the southern hemisphere underneath the earth, magma swells happening in very different places. It's under such pressure. And then you have these new fault lines that are forming, cracks, destabilization events in the crust, and that's leading all the way up to some very dangerous things. Now, not only is California going to be in trouble, but we also have the areas right there in the middle of the Grand Canyon. So that entire province is in trouble, basically. So you're looking at a remake and a reestablished. People are going to be displaced big time. These small swarms, Pastor, you remember last week we were talking about California, and I said that I described something. I said that small events happen in California, but they passed, and people said, oh, it's going to be okay. And then when the smell hit their nose, when it began to stink on the coastlines, which means in a simulation, that would mean that sulfur, right, is being released, sulfur and some highly toxic gases are being released from deep within the Earth. When that begins to happen, that means it's already broken, and it's only a matter of time. And birds are going to be a good indicator because they will leave that area due to what they are picking up. Birds have a lot of magnetite in their brain, so any disturbance in the magnetic field or the biomagnetic field, they're gonna go away. So birds are a good indication that something really heavy is coming. If you don't see any birds in the skies in California, like what's happening now, the fires are driving them out now, but if they diminish anywhere, expect a big one. You know, in 1988, 89, I can't quite remember when the last one hit California, right?
Yeah, it was 89, during the World Series. Yeah.
I was right there. I was right there in Fort Ord, California. I was right there. And the one thing I noticed right before it hit was an absence of birds. There was an absence of birds. There were no birds anywhere. And so they're going to face the same situation again. The problem is, even through deep sea surveys, even through seismic surveys, sound waves that they have injected into the Earth to get a sonic representation of what California is sitting on, it's in bad shape. They have brainstormed everything they could, including the use of nuclear weapons to pre-blow some of the weaker points, hoping that possibly they could salvage the state, but they can't do that. You're dealing with enormous forces, and these forces, right, these small earthquakes, if they had 1 million more small earthquakes, it is not enough to relieve the pressure of what's building there, because we're still receiving. All of this is tied together. The radiation the Earth receives is still causing the swells inside of the Earth. It's increasing the temperature. With these swells, it's causing pressure on these rocks, and you have more melting, or something's going to have to blow. There's simply not enough things blowing.
See the picture right there, Brock, if you put that back on the screen. What they're showing, Mike, is San Diego, and then you can see on this map Tucson to Phoenix. And this area, we got a phone call right after the show last Thursday from people in that area who said there's huge cracks in the ground between Tucson and Phoenix. And so you knew about the ones in Mexico. So this thing is starting to crack. Are you saying that from Phoenix to Tucson, all the way to San Diego, we could see massive cracks and breaking off?
Yeah, imagine that entire landmass. Imagine seeing Los Angeles, California, and that area tilted on its side, breaking off, right? Just imagine that. You're dealing with enormous. It's hard to imagine until you begin to look at the scale of the Earth, which I'm working on something so people can actually experience the scale of the Earth, and then they'll understand, because Los Angeles is nothing more than a cookie. If you were to take a table, right, a big table where everybody eats at, 1 grain of sand would be about 3 to 4 times the size of Los Angeles. So we're not, as far as the Earth is concerned, we're not dealing with a big landmass. It's quite tiny, right? So it wouldn't take that much to pluck a piece of sand off the table. That would be the representation of Los Angeles, right? And San Diego and all those places around that area.
Mike.
Scale with the Earth.
Mike, from Los Angeles to San Diego, you know how many people live there?
Yes, and that's why it's so disturbing, is because, you know what they have, listen, something happened for the last 2.5 years, Pastor Paul. There have been so many people put out of a job because they were about to warn people prematurely to get away from that place. Nobody's listening. It's quite concerning to me that nobody's listening. That's just like Japan, right? Nobody's going to listen in Japan and begin to get out of that place. And just how many fires have to come to California before the people realize that these fires, why are these fires showing up in places that give you almost a border of the trouble area that matches